Howdy, here's a little video on my knives and knives in general. Down this end, there's some paring knives. If you're starting out, a paring knife is damn handy. That's a Henkel. It's probably 20 years old. It's got a kind of a plastic composite handle on it and a stainless steel blade. The composite handle is good. They're not as grippy as a rosewood handle, but they're better than the cheap plastic restaurant supply knives that have bright white or bright yellow handles on them. They're really slippery when they get wet or when they get a bit of grease on them. That's a plastic handle. That one's slippery when it gets wet or gets grease on it. Although it's good, I often have a couple of extra paring knives floating around in the case to loan to bartenders because they don't have anything to slice lemons or limes with. That's a turning knife. I got a couple of them here. That's the French used them for putting sides, supposedly 7 sides on a vegetable. This was a Spanish one. It's got a composite handle on it, stainless steel. The Spanish, it's got a cheaper steel in it. It's hard to sharpen and it doesn't hold an edge very well. And the bad thing about that is, well, it looks nice. Turning knives, you hold them like this, and you hold a vegetable and you do this. But really, you really want to hold it that way, and the handle is backwards. This is this one here is a turning knife. It's an older Gustav Emerald Aron or rosewood handle, so it's easy to grip. And you can see the shape of the handle. It fits a lot better when you're actually turning a vegetable. You probably won't be doing a lot of vegetable turning, but if you do, look for one where the handle has got a shape that fits your hand that way. My favorite paring knife that gets a lot of use is a Gustav Emerald Aron carbon steel. I love carbon steel. It's easy to sharpen. It's a little the carbon steel doesn't have any nickel in it, and it takes an edge incredibly quick. The only problem is that it gets a patina on it that can react to acid. But you just keep wiping them down. You don't put them in dishwashers. That's got a composite handle on it too, so it's not too bad. It's slippery. And that's another composite handle paring knife that's kicking around. That's an unused version. You can see that it looks like stainless steel, but it's actually just hasn't got any patina on it yet. You can see that this one has been used for 4 or 5 years, and it's a little bit shorter now, and it's developed a little bit of a swale in it. C'est la vie. There's the original sticker on it. That's a great size paring knife if you're starting out, and you can use it for boning chicken breasts, vegetable work. I really like that size of paring knife, and it's got a nice size handle on it too. So if your hand is a little larger, that's that's not as comfortable a handle to hold on that size of a paring knife. So look for a paring knife like that, in probably stainless steel, unless you want to deal with the higher maintenance of carbon steel. Got a couple of boning knives, rosewood handle, and that's got some sort of weird composite handle on it. Again, this stainless steel, that's a pain in the ass to sharpen. Holds an edge okay, but it's really hard. And that's a carbon steel boning knife, great for taking apart joints of meat and whatnot. That's another Gustav Emerald Aron. I love the feel of the wood handle. Handy, but not necessarily as a first knife. That's a Henkel ham slicer, I think. It's got the scalloped edges so stuff doesn't stick, and it's got the rounded tip on it. The rounded tip is really useful when you're if you're carving something and you're serving food, because it allows you to pick up the piece of ham and put it on the plate. That's handy to have, although it doesn't get a whole lot of use. Got a few trenchards. They're good for slicing stuff. That's a composite handle. It's a cheap one. That's a cheap one. It's a pain in the ass to sharpen. I don't really use it a whole lot. It stays at home. That's a really handy sized knife. It's good. If your cutting board is short and you don't have a lot of workspace, it's good for sandwiches. And in a pinch, you can throw it in as a boning knife. You can see the maker's mark is actually forged into it, the Gustav Emerlaren. So when they actually forge it in, you know it's an older knife. My guess is that's late 50s, early 60s, somewhere in there. And that's a good size trenchard for slicing. Another forge mark on that one, and wood handles. It's a bit of a rarity. It's a lock slicer. Not exactly sure who made it. Bit of locks left on it. Very flexible. Good for cutting sheet cake or slicing lox. You can put a razor sharp edge on it. Not necessarily good for a first knife. This is a great size for a first knife. This is a 12-inch older Henkel, probably the 60s. Rosewood handles. 10 to 12 is a really good convenient size once you get used to it. These knives, when I get a new knife, I take it out to the garage. What I do is I take a file and I just kind of run the file along these two edges here, because most people use a pinch grip like that. And brand new knives, that edge there can be razor sharp and uncomfortable to hold on. So you know that's a good little tip there. I've been doing this for at the moment I'm the banquet chef at a large hotel / resort. So if you need somebody to do a wedding for $300, I'm your man. This is a Sabatier. It's a French style knife. It's a little shorter. The French style knives, they have this extra bolster piece in them. Some people say it aids in grip. Some people say it aids in balance. I think it's just a fashion difference between the German and the French knives. That's a German style knife with the bolster, with no steel on the bolster. The only problem I find with these knives is for some reason, because the wood doesn't go all the way back there, they tend to crack. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but there's a crack there, and there's a crack there. It also comes from the fact that it doesn't get used a lot, and the wood tends to shrink. You can see the gaps in there. If I was to use this knife on a regular basis, eventually the moisture from my hands and work, that would swell up and that gap would close. So this is I just have this in my collection for the hell of it. It's carbon steel. You can see there's a few stains on it, but nice knife overall. Really needs to be rehandled. That's a good size. That 10-inch for a first knife. This one's just floating around. It's another Gustav Emerlaren carbon steel. Hasn't been used. That's why it's still shiny. There's another Gustav Emerlaren. This one I haven't filed that down yet. This one hasn't been used at all. This is a Pack-A-Wood handle. They're good handles. They're kind of like plywood. There's you don't know if you can see it, but there's tiny little layers, and the wood's it's very dense, and the wood is pressed together. They offer good grip, just as good as rosewood. That's a beautiful knife, by the way. This is a 10-inch. It's an older Henkel, probably early 80s. It's a Twin Star or something. It's got the composite handle on it. Good grip. The steel in it isn't as lively as the carbon steels. It doesn't have as nice a feel. And I don't like the shape of the kind of a barrel shape to the handle, and it's not as comfortable to hold because it doesn't really fit the pinch grip as well. The knives that are straight and wood, they just feel more comfortable in the hand. but that would be a good size knife as a starter, Henkel. This is one of my two workhorses. It looks like a Gustav Ermel-Aaron, but it just says Soligen Cutlery. It's from Germany, so it's got the mark in it there. It's probably late 50s, early 60s. This one's been filed down there for comfort, and that's once you get a little bit of experience, that 13-inch blade is gorgeous to work with. So the longer the blade, it allows more cutting surface, so it's easier to get stuff under, and you don't have to articulate your wrist as much when you're slicing with it. A really short knife, you have to work your wrist, and it's difficult to get stuff underneath it. A long knife, you get lots of blade length to work with, and it's also good too for doing for herbs or something like that. A big mound of parsley, you can get a lot of product underneath it. This is a 14-inch. It's another older, I think, Gustav Ermel-Aaron. It's great for cracking lobsters. It'll go through a 3-pound lobster like nothing. The French refer to it as a cuisine massif, another large food knife, although it sounds much sexier when you refer to it as a cuisine massif. It's a little bit large for doing regular chopping and regular kitchen work, but if you need to go through lobsters and whatnot, it'll go through a 3-pound lobster like butter. This is its mate. It's brand new, never been used. I just have it because I like kitchen knives. And the sticker's still on the handle. Every once in a while, one of these will pop up on eBay, and they're $250, $300, somewhere's in there. Got a couple of bread knives. This is a Grohmann. They're a great company. They're Canadian made. A good, nice stainless steel. Rosewood handles. The only problem about buying an expensive bread knife is that they're a bitch to sharpen, and when they're worn out, they're worn out. So you got to screw around with a Dremel or get the right size file in there, or send it back to the factory, and it never comes out as nice. Short, stiff bread knife blade, great for doing hard loaves. That's just a plain Henkel, a little bit more flexible, a little less expensive. A bread knife like that is a good all-purpose bread knife, and when it wears out, you can chuck it away, and you don't have to worry about the fact that your $120 bread knife is now dull as can be. That's another Grohmann knife, stainless steel. It's a fillet knife, nice rosewood handles again. Well, I love wood handles. If you can, stick with the wood handle. It's much more comfortable. And it's flexible, so it's good for boning small fish and whatnot. That's a House of Knives Trenchard, another slicing knife. It says high carbon steel on it, but it won't take an edge, and it's a pain to sharpen, so it just hangs around the house. There's 3 steels here. This is a really good steel to use. It's actually a smooth, it's a butcher steel or a packing steel, and there's no serrations on it. So what it does is when your knife starts to get a little bit dull and you're working with it, what happens is the edge starts to fold over a bit, right? And this just straightens the edge out, right? Without actually removing any steel. So you can use this. You can whack the knife off on this every half an hour, and it greatly prolongs the life of the blade. This is good. Maybe use this once a day or so. It's an older German steel. It's got the striations in it, so they do act as a bit of a file. People will tell you that these steels, they don't remove any metal from the blade, but they do slowly. That's good every once in a while on a carbon steel knife, as is the smooth packing steel good in a carbon steel knife. This is a diamond steel. They're more of a, people use them like a steel, but they're more of an actual stone, right? These, when you sharpen with these diamond, they will remove metal. The heart of the steel on a knife like this like on this Henkel, you can use it for a long time on a diamond steel, and it's convenient and it won't wear away the knife. But if you use it on a softer carbon steel knife, such as this older scimitar, they wear like that, and then you end up with a knife with a big swale on the blade. That's a scimitar. It's not for it's for cutting, you know, joints of meat. It's not meant for chopping. That's an old Henkel. That's ancient. I don't know this one. 12-inch. Convenient. It's good for taking apart, you know, an inside round or an outside round, or cutting steaks off a strip loin. Two cleavers here. That's a small meat cleaver, stainless steel. Another Grohmann knife. If you can get a 10-inch Grohmann knife as your first knife, you're doing great. Nice rosewood handle, heavy, good for going. That's good for you know, lamb and whatnot. This is a vegetable cleaver, a Chinese vegetable cleaver. You can still get the maker's mark still in it there. Now, I use this a lot around the house, and it's a really soft steel, but because it's softer, you can put a wicked edge on it, and it's great for doing vegetables and whatnot. I use this a lot at home. Well, that just about covers everything. If I was looking for a knife as a first knife, I would try to find something, you know, 10 inches, stainless steel, wood handle. I would avoid the Sabatiers that have the extra bolster there, just to avoid the chance of the wood handle cracking. For sharpening, fork, good. That's handy to have if you're dealing with large joints of meat and you want to get it out of the roasting pan. Not necessarily if you're just starting out. For sharpening, I find these Dia-Sharps, these flat steel plates with a diamond on them. They cut like crazy, and they have a really coarse one, and it allows you to when your knife gets a little bit hollow there, it allows you to pull that bolster down a bit. I like a bolster on a knife too, because it's much more comfortable when your fingers in a pinch grip and then riding up against the edge of the knife there. So that's that's where a knife incurs the greatest stress and is most likely to break. So a full bolster there is a good thing to have on a knife if you want it to last a while. For final sharpening, I'm one of the few that I strop my knives, and that's just a 14-inch piece of oak, and it's got a leather glued on it, and you can purchase this chromium oxide rubbing compound, and I simply load up the strop like so, and then I take a knife, and after I'm done sharpening it, I strop it a few times on the leather, and that makes a huge difference. There's a reason barbers used to strop their knives. You never want to go. You always want to drag the knife away from the cutting edge, like so. You never want to go this way. You always want to go this way. Takes a bit of practice. Anywho, the bottom of my work case, that's just a chunk of 2x6, and I took it to a table saw and I cut grooves in it. It's also convenient too as an easy way to store knives in a drawer, so you don't need to go get a $1 million knife block to store knives in a drawer. That's about it. So in retrospect, to sum it all up, if I were you and looking for a first knife, I'd look for something, that size, or maybe even that size. Wood handles, full bolster. Probably stainless steel because they're easier to care for, although a little harder to sharpen. Although I do love my carbon steel knives. And that's about it. Y'all have a good day now.